Hey guys, I hope you're having a good start to this 2021 year. I know we're all hoping things will be better than they were last year, and I think that they can be. I think that's up to you for your life, that's up to me for my life, what we make of it. In fact, I think that as we start into New Year, sometimes we start wondering, what's my life all about? What can I do differently to have a better life? What are some things that I need to change? A lot of those questions wrap around this idea of what's my purpose? Why am I here? Maybe you're thinking about your job and it's why do I do the things that I do? Maybe it's working out. Maybe it's spending time with people that you love. What is the purpose of my life? And maybe even larger than that, what's the purpose of life in general? And so the next few weeks, we just want to sit down with you and talk about purpose. What is your purpose? I don't know if you've seen it yet. On Disney Plus, there's a really great movie that they put out. It's called Soul, about looking at this guy's life and him understanding that his purpose is bigger than what he thought it was. And he was chasing after one dream, but the whole time his life had so much fulfillment. As I think about purpose, I think that sometimes purpose is hard to discover until you're at the right moment, the right place, with the right perspective, and purpose can be revealed in the simplicity of a conversation. Your whole life can turn on a hinge with one conversation. We're here at the coffee house out at the Ridge, and I think a lot of those conversations happen in places like this, where you're sitting down with friends, you're sitting down with a close friend, you might be sitting down with a group of friends, and just in the conversation, something said that sparks interest in you or drives something deep inside of your soul and spirit, and you come alive. You grab hold of something. Something gets you to the core, and you know you're never going to be the same. You know this is going to change things. You know this has the possibility to redirect the course of your life. As we sit down together this month, we're going to be looking into a book of the Bible called Nehemiah. Now, Nehemiah, he's a guy, like many of us, got up in the morning, went to work. Now, his job was probably a little bit different than your job, a little bit different than my job. He was the cupbearer for the king, which means that he had an audience with the king every day. He would bring in the king's wine. Before bringing it in, he would taste it to make sure it wasn't poison so that they knew the king would be protected. But I think in that, he had a pretty privileged place of getting the ear of the king from time to time. But he got up in the morning, got ready, went to work, did his job, hopefully did it very faithfully, especially in that profession. You don't want some guy that's slacking on his job being your cupbearer and testing your wine and making sure you're not going to die. But I think that he did his job, and then at the end of the day went back home, got ready, went to bed to get up and do it all again the next day. Looking forward to the paycheck, but is that really all there is to life? And so he was doing okay, but I wonder sometimes, did he ever feel like he was missing out on something? In Nehemiah chapter 1, he had some of his relatives come visit him. Now, he was from a town in Jerusalem, or the town was Jerusalem in Israel. Right now, he's in Susa, which was in the Persian Empire, and so he's away from home. And some of the family, some of his relatives came to see him. And so he was interested about how things were going back home. Hey, how's life? The Israelites had been in captivity to another nation, and they had been released to come home and take care of things around their hometown. And so he's just wanting to know it. And so it says that his brothers came to see him, and it says that Nehemiah asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped and had survived the captivity, and he asked them about Jerusalem. And his family, they answered, and they were just straight up. I like that about people, when they tell it to me straight. They don't try to sugarcoat it. They don't try to pacify it. They don't try to make me feel good. They're just telling the facts as it is. And so verse 3, they say, the remnant there in the province who survived the captivity are in great distress. They're in great reproach. They're embarrassed about their living conditions. Things are not good. They're really not safe. They're not secure. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. So, just a simple conversation with family, with people that he hadn't seen in a while, and he just says, hey, how are things? And they tell him devastating news. In that devastating news, something happened inside of Nehemiah. Like some of those conversations that you've had before, and somebody says something, or the conversation takes a turn, or they say something that doesn't settle well with you. You didn't like what you heard, but something starts to burn inside of you. That happened for Nehemiah. Chapter 1, verse 4 says, "When I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days." Something crushed him on the inside. It got a hold of him. I believe that our lives will never have real meaning until something grabs a hold of us, and we know we must do something about it. Hananiah heard that something needed to be done, and he was willing to do whatever needed to be done to take care of the problem, if he was able to. So he had this one conversation. It changed. It was a turning point for his life. Have you had one of those conversations? Maybe you're hoping for one of those conversations. Maybe it's a conversation with somebody that means a lot to you. Maybe it's a conversation about a relationship and you're waiting for him to say, "Hey, will you marry me?" Maybe you're waiting for her to just show you a little bit more that she's really into the relationship. Maybe it's a conversation at work and you're waiting for the boss to call you in and you're hoping that the conversation will be a turning point for you. I remember for me, I was about 17 years old, maybe already 18, and I was considering college. I had my mind made up on a certain college that I was going to go to, had considered some other ones. But my dad came home one day after work, and I was about to jet out for the evening, would hang out with my friends. And he stopped and said, "Hey, Andy, have you considered this college?" And the college was in Texas. Now, if you don't know much about me, if you haven't tuned in, caught much of what we do around here, I grew up in Washington State, so Texas, 2,000 miles away. Of course, Dad, I have not considered that place. He said, "I wish you would." In that conversation, God did something in me. He started to change the trajectory of my life. He started to hinge what I thought I was going to do and what God wanted me to do. Right now, I'm sitting in this coffee house, and Tyler, our communications pastor, is here with us. And I remember one of those conversations that we had as he was going through college. He entered into ministry, was a youth pastor down around the Conway area. And we just had a conversation, and I told him about an opportunity that was going to open up at Temple. And I knew he was the guy for it. And he'll share with you, if you ever get to that chance to talk to him, how God started putting some puzzle pieces about his passion and his desire and the calling on his life together to where he saw what God was up to. And in that conversation, it was a little bit of a turning point for him. For you, I hope you've had that conversation, that turning point. Maybe it's been at a Bible study. Maybe it's been at a family gathering. Maybe it's been in the workplace. Maybe it's just been you sitting by the side of the lake and a stranger came up. And in that conversation, God birthed something. God sparked something inside of you, and it changed your life. Conversations are a great place to start. I think that's why we should all have meaningful friendships to where we can have meaningful conversations. Out of that conversation of Nehemiah with his brother Hananiah and some other family members, it led to another conversation. And I want to leave you with that today. I want you to go and open up a Bible. Maybe you don't have a physical Bible. That's okay. Find an app on your phone. You can get a Bible app on there and look up the book Nehemiah and read chapter 1. Because after this conversation and after it upset Nehemiah's life, again, he was mourning and weeping over the news he heard, he started to talk to God. And I think that any conversation that's going to change the course of our life should lead us to a conversation with our Creator. And we should ask Him what's up. He first off praised God for who He was. He confessed God that he was not always living right. None of us have been. And then he started to ask God to do something. And He was willing to be the instrument to do it through. I hope this helps with where you are in life right now. Next week, we're going to dig back into this, and we're going to look at how sometimes these conversations lead us to a place where we need to then sit down by ourselves and figure things out. We need to sit down and assess the situation. We need to sit down and consider the cost of, if I'm going to do something about it, what's it going to cost me time-wise, relationship-wise, maybe even financially, what's it going to cost, and see if it's worth it. But I promise you, when you find purpose in life, it's going to be so much more worth living. And I encourage you, don't stop until you've found something that'll drive you forward for the betterment of you and also the betterment of people all around you. I'll talk to you again next week.